Welcome to this brief pondering in the Psalms as we take a second look at Psalm 35. In our first take on this psalm, I pointed out that this was what's often categorized as an imprecatory psalm, along with a few others. And the characteristics of that are when David, and it is David, calls down the judgment of God on those who oppose him, but they oppose him because he is who he is, the appointed king of a theocratic nation. What I want to do in this little study is just to look at this psalm itself and marvel at the structure and benefit from the content. One of the things that I have greatly enjoyed in recent weeks as I've focused on the psalms, both in this and in other contexts, is the amazing, often very intricate way in which individual psalms are put together under the inspiration of the Spirit of God, and also how the collection of the psalms is put together. It's far more than just some sort of random allocation of psalms into different groups. And I marvel at Psalm 35 at the way that the psalmist has ordered it and constructed it and knitted it together. I have written 2 or 3 hymns myself, and I know just how difficult it is to give order and structure and focus and all the rest of it to make it a worthwhile item of praise. So I have a greater appreciation, if you like, of what David has done here. Let me just take you through this psalm in a very simple way, but hopefully opening up so you can see more truths from it. Like most psalms, there is a structure to this psalm, and there are 3 clear sections in this particular psalm. There's verses 1 to 10, 11 to 18, and 19 to 25. And each of those sections contains 3 of the same components, although slightly different order within each of those 3. So there are 3 elements for each of these 3 sections. There's the element of complaint, there's an element of confidence, and there's a commitment. So there's a complaint when David pours out to God what's bothering him, what's on his heart, what is it that he's afraid of, what are his enemies doing to him. He spells it out to God, often in the form of a prayer, asking God to do something about it. So there's a complaint he makes to God. Then there's a confidence that he expresses. He's making this complaint to God because he knows he's in the right, and he knows that God is not only able to deal with this, but God has done so many times in the past. So that gives muscle to his praying. He hasn't sort of got his fingers crossed hoping that God might be able to deliver. He's no doubt that God can and will deliver. And then there's not only complaint and confidence, but there's also a commitment on David's part. He commits himself, looking ahead in faith and anticipation, that when God does answer his prayer, he will respond with appropriate praise. Sometimes just himself, sometimes calling in the people of God to swell his thanks and praise to God. So there's these 3 elements: complaint, confidence, and commitment. But I also want you to notice something else that links this whole psalm together and its 3 sections. In verse 1, there's 2 perspectives, though the language in the English doesn't always bring it out for us. There's the perspective of the law court, and there's the perspective of the battlefield. So David says, contend with those who contend with me. And that word comes in the Hebrew, comes from a legal background. It's as if I'm taking him to court. Here's the evidence against him. Deal with him. But the second half of the verse says, fight against those who fight against me. So you've got the courtroom on one hand and the battlefield on the other hand. And then in the first section, from verses 2 through to 10, David is engaged in the battlefield scenario. And then in verses 11 to 18, he's engaged in the law court scenario. And the language is different and the issues are different. And then in the third section, 19 to 25, he tends to merge them together. And you can almost apply what he says there to either of these 2 situations. It's a wonderfully, marvelously constructed psalm with a unity theme that runs all the way through it. But look right in the middle, what really pains David, and we've seen this before in some of the Psalms, what really pains and grieves David is that the very people who are slandering him and maligning him and rubbishing his reputation are not those he thought were his enemies, but those he thought were his friends, and those who are repaying his good with evil. He says these are people that when they were in trouble, I went out of my way. I sacrificed myself in order to help them and to support them and to stand by them. And now they are taking great delight in undermining me and in betraying me and in telling lies about me. And those are the unkindest cuts of all, aren't they? When those with whom we had bonds of loyalty turn against us, as they did in David's case. But nonetheless, he's confident God will deal with them, and God will vindicate his own name and his own glory, because that's what's really at stake here. It's not David that's at stake, it's God. The Lord bless you.